What if events had unfolded differently in the MCU timeline? What if Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man was in the MCU? What if Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker was in Captain America Civil War? With the new No Way Home movie just weeks away, I will be continuing diving deep into this Marvel's what if question. Do make sure to check out the previous parts as you might miss key story elements. That being said, let's dive right into the Marvel's what if. A year has passed since the events of Age of Ultron. Peter Parker was adjusting with his new life, training with the other Avengers. He was also recovering mentally from the death of his friend, Harry Osborn, his childhood friend who turned into the Green Goblin in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Harry finally died after being killed by his own glider when they faced off in Sokovia. Rhino was back in Ravencroft's institution, and Peter is also still a photographer at the Daily Bugle. With his impressive shots taken in Sokovia, Jonah was impressed with Peter's skills. In the present day, Peter, Steve Rogers, Natasha, Romanoff, Sam Wilson, and Wanda were in Lagos, Nigeria. They were trying to stop Brock Rumlow, aka Crossbones, from stealing a biological weapon from a lab. As the Avengers were chasing after Rumlow and his men, Rumlow gained the upper hand against Captain America. While Steve Rogers was still busy with Brock, the other Avengers were trying to take down his men. Cap fought back and eventually cornered Brock. He then detonated a bomb in an attempt to kill Captain America together with him. Peter's spider sense tingled as he saw Wanda using her telekinesis powers to suspend the explosion. Peter knew that if they couldn't think it properly, their actions could be dangerous. Peter then swung towards their direction as he saw Wanda diverted the explosion containing Brock into a nearby building. He swung quickly towards and tried to rescue as many civilians as he could in time. As he rescued several Wakanda humanitarian workers, there were some who have failed to be saved in time. The explosion destroyed a nearby building, killing several workers there. Peter himself managed to save around 10 civilians, but the explosion hurled him towards a nearby building and shrapnel that pierced through his right leg. The civilians were safe, but Peter himself was injured. Captain America quickly attended to Peter and calmed him down. Wanda was horrified about what she had done. She used her powers to remove the shrapnel from Peter's leg, but Peter himself was unable to partake in any future missions temporarily to allow him to recover. As Peter was at the hospital in the United States, he saw the news of General Thunderbolt Ross's announcement to the world of the Sokovia Accords, created in a response to the damages caused by the Avengers despite their hero duties. The United Nations will establish a panel to oversee the team. Peter was having mixed feelings over the Sokovia Accords. On one point, he felt that the Avengers do need to be in check, and this is because of what happened in Sokovia and in Lagos. Even if they were heroes, other civilians were just average human beings. The others suffered more compared to what the Avengers have suffered. On the other hand, he felt that the Accords might use the Avengers for their own political gains when the time comes. Realizing how he doesn't have to be a part in this as he is ruled out of the Avengers temporarily, Peter decided to rest and heal up. Back in the Avengers HQ, they were divided with the decisions of the Sokovia Accords. Tony supports it as he believes that he is guilty for the creation of Ultron, which almost ended the world. Steve, meanwhile, was more faithful in his own judgment with the politicians. Events where Zemo tracked down and killed Bucky Barnes' former Hydra handler would still occur too. After stealing a book that contained the triggered words for Bucky, Helium planted a bomb at the UN conference in Vienna. The conference was attended by most political leaders around the world, including King T'Chaka of Wakanda. Natasha was also present at the conference, and Peter was watching the news at the hospital when he saw the bombing occurred, killing many leaders including King T'Chaka, who was the nearest to the explosion. As the security cameras caught Bucky on tape, a manhunt for him began. Steve wanted to bring Barnes by himself, and he believes that there is still good in Barnes. He had Falcon and Sharon Carter's help with him. Peter was horrified at the news, and he knew that he still isn't fit 100% to take down the Winter Soldier. Peter Peter wasn't aware that the Winter Soldier was Captain America's best friend. However, he was convinced by J. Jonah Jameson to give him a shot to cover the incident of the bombing in Vienna. Still impressed by his last work at Sokovia, Jonah gave him the green light with the plane tickets to Vienna. As Peter arrived at the location, he saw the damages of the explosion. He also saw many police cars across the street moving in the same direction. Realizing that this could be a hit or miss location of Bucky, Peter started trailing the police cars in a Spider-Man suit. Bucky found himself cornered as he faced off with T'Challa, the Black Panther himself. Captain America and Falcon were also there and tried to bring in Barnes. As they faced off, Spider-Man swung into action. He waited from across the building to capture some juicy shots for the Daily Bugle. The police, including War Machine, then arrived and apprehended all of them. Zemo impersonated a psychiatrist infiltrated the place where Barnes was detained. Peter decided to be on the lookout outside the building after Barnes was activated via the Hydra brainwashing command by Zemo. He went on a rampage to escape, and Steve managed to stop Barnes after Barnes briefly battled with them. Peter saw the alarms of the buildings were triggered, and he saw someone suspicious escaping from the facility, but he was being doubtful. He was more worried about what was going to happen inside. Peter decided to put his suit on and headed inside. He saw Rogers stopping Barnes and sneaking him away. As Steve and Sam Wilson were questioning Bucky, Sam spotted on his radar that someone was spying on them. Sam deployed his drones, but they were webbed. They saw that it was none other than Spider-Man who was listening to them. Peter said that he was merely worried about their safety and decided to tail them. Bucky then told them that Zemo was the real bomber behind Vienna and wanted the location of the Siberian Hydra base. He wanted to activate the other Winter Soldiers who were in cryogenic stasis. Steve and Sam knew that the authorities will not believe Bucky's statement. Peter was a little hesitant at first, but then he decided to show them a picture of Zemo. He took a picture of the suspicious person he saw earlier at the roof of the building. Barnes then confirmed that this was indeed Zemo, the same person that manipulated him. With that confirmed, Bucky, Steve, Sam, and Peter decided to go on a run. They knew that they needed to stop Zemo from activating his targets. Rogers and Wilson decided to recruit Maximoff, Clint, and Scott Lang to their team. As they were going rogue and on the fight to track down Zemo, they were intercepted at the airport. Awaiting them was none other than Tony and his team that consisted of Black Panther, Black Widow, Vision, and War Machine. Tony told them to stand down as he has given direct orders to stop Bucky Barnes from escaping. Tony himself said that he would not hesitate to stop them or take serious actions if necessary. Captain America knew that time is of the essence and told his others to prepare. Everyone else was surprised to see Spider-Man present. They thought that he was still in the hospital recovering from his past injuries sustained in Lagos. Spider-Man said that he couldn't do that as an Avenger, and he tried to convince Tony's team that Bucky was not the real bomber and that Zemo was the mastermind behind all of this. Tony refused to believe him as he said that Zemo alone couldn't orchestrate an entire plan from the bombing till framing of Bucky. Tony added that if Spider-Man doesn't stand down, he will reveal Peter's identity to the others. Realizing that he's been blackmailed, Peter Parker was furious at Tony. Shocking everyone else at the airport, Peter removed his mask, revealing his true identity to everyone for the first time. He said that he is Peter Parker from New York and a photographer for the Daily Bugle. He added, with great power comes great responsibility, which is why he was more than willing to fight for the truth, even if he was blackmailed by Tony Stark. Peter then put his mask back on and stayed by Captain America's side. The both sides eventually clashed until Romanoff realized Peter's words in the rift between the Avengers. She then shot several tasers towards Black Panther, allowing Steve and Bucky to escape. War Machine and Falcon were battling with each other when Rhodes himself was accidentally shot down by Vision. Rhodes was crashing down into the ground and Tony knew that he couldn't make it in time. Peter's spider sense started tingling and he swung to save Rhodes from crashing down to the ground. As a result, he wasn't paralyzed. Rhodes was thankful for Peter for saving his life, and Rhodes looked at Tony and told him that he owes Peter his life. He told Tony to let Peter off. Tony said that Peter took his chances when he sided with Captain America. Peter then showed evidence of Zemo leaving the building after the attacks earlier on Bucky. Peter said that Captain America and Bucky were heading to Siberia to stop them. Tony then told Peter to leave, but his duties as an Avenger has been revoked. He is thankful, however, for him saving Rhodes' life. Peter then said that he is disappointed with how the Avengers turned out after a small rift. He threw away his mask and suit before leaving. The rest of Rogers' team was captured and detained at the Raft prison while Natasha went into exile. Much of the balance of the Civil War timeline will be the same, as where Stark headed to Siberia's Hydra facility after deciding to believe Peter's words. Tony would later clash with Steve Rogers and Bucky after learning that Bucky was responsible for the death of his own parents in an assassination back in 1991. With the Avengers fractured, Zemo was about to commit suicide but was stopped by Black Panther. Peter returned to New York City with the shots taken at Vienna and Birkenchest. Peter decided to quit being a photographer at the Daily Bugle, and he spent more time with Aunt May and decided to continue his studying to earn his doctorate in biochemistry. At the same time, he started working as a scientist in a nearby laboratory. He felt that this was where his potential would be the best. He also decided to quit Spider-Man for good, after realizing how heroes can be too ambitious, with the resulting in more damage. Meanwhile, in the shadows, the gentleman was disappointed as the information he supplied to Zemo of the Avengers has failed, but he knew with the Avengers fractured, he will soon be able to manipulate the world even easier, and that is going to be, what if Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker had been in Captain America Civil War? I think a lot of the timeline would have been different, and I do believe that Peter Parker would have been on Captain America's side, considering how in the comic books, he eventually does go to Cap's side after all these different events, and I do want to say that Andrew Garfield has stated before that Iron Man and Spider-Man, if his Spider-Man was in the MCU, they probably wouldn't have worked together as long, as Uncle Ben's philosophies don't really collide well with Tony Stark's philosophies, and I do believe that's true. So that's why I kind of wrote it the way I did, where Captain America and Peter Parker would be good friends in this storyline. But that is going to be it for this fan fiction. If you guys did enjoy this Marvel's What If, do make sure to subscribe, like, share, and turn your notifications on so you and your friends are all up to date with the latest content. But anyways, as always, guys, thanks for tuning in and have a fantastic day.